Okey-doke. Let's see if we are live. I think we are. Wait, are we? Shit. Oh, I think we are. Okay, good. Okay.
白岩学園3年 B 組の皆さん、こんにちは。
はい、こんにちは。
Oh gosh, I was listening to the music. Alright, so it looks like I'm streaming by myself right now, which, alright, go me, right on. Okay, I'm gonna continue anyway, because why not? What else am I gonna do? At any rate, so today I was actually thinking about something that happened, rather a thought process that I've been thinking a lot about recently, which is we really have been in a peculiar situation of late, and that situation is one in which our entire culture is basically designed all the way around victimhood, and that's it. And this has to stop. I don't know how to stop it. I have no idea how to stop it. But I was thinking to myself that there are some people that have had it in their mind that perhaps they could somehow deconstruct vampires in academia, and perhaps there could be a way to create a victim narrative for white people. And I think that is the opposite of what we should be doing. I sincerely believe that if you think about it from the standpoint of we are under attack, we are being demographically replaced. If we are being demographically replaced, then clearly the only thing that we can do is find some way to either halt it or at the very least mitigate it. I don't think that we're in a position to be thinking about begging permission or playing Mother May I. The problem with that is that if we actually are going to be asking for permission to not be eradicated, we basically lose. So there is no, this is zero sum when you stop and think about it. I don't like using the phrase government, or the word government, because that gets very serious very quickly, but there are groups that are interested in ethnically cleansing us. And once you come to terms with that, once you actually finally come to grips with that reality, the only thing this is why so many people go through sort of a rage spot. Oh, hey buddy, how's it going? This is why so many people go through a rage spot, is because they realize, and it upsets them. They get pissed off. And simply getting upset is not enough. After you're done being upset, you have to start dealing with the problem, whatever that problem may be. And if the people that are causing the problem are the ones that we are talking about in terms of being in charge of things, saying Mother May I, asking for forgiveness, begging for curry or favor is not going to work. The way that the academic institutions have conditioned approximately 2 generations of people, maybe more, maybe 3, 4, I don't know. It's all revolved around a plea to authority ever since the 1990s, the very late 1990s, when it became conventional for little kids to be basically either indoors or under parental supervision when outdoors. Basically, little kids became shut-ins. And once they became shut-ins, they had to seek approval and not just approval, there's another, permission, that's the other word, permission. They had to seek approval and permission from adults, either parents or teachers. And that in itself is technically not a bad thing, but the problem is that if you are always looking to authority for either permission or approval, what that means is you're not going to solve things on your own. And that's the major issue here, is that we are truly on our own. And thinking about it, we're not going to be able to... I don't like saying this, but the phrase, there is no political solution, comes to mind. We can't vote our way out of this. And if we can't vote our way out of this, then what that means is that we're going to effectively have to create like de facto safe zones. And I think that because I am in Los Angeles and I can't talk about these topics outside of very specific contexts. No one that I know IRL has any clue about the vast majority of the things that I think about. So what that means to me is that in my context, where I am, I have to lay low, and I dislike that tremendously. I am looking forward to leaving Los Angeles so that I can finally speak about these things openly. And there needs to be a hell of a lot more people thinking like that, because at the moment there simply aren't enough people. Once you get past rhetoric, then you get to move to things like action plans, consequences, or whatever. There actually does need to be something in the way of forward movement in terms of creating a safe space, a safe zone. But that can't be done if you're playing Mother May I. That can only be done if you're behaving in an active manner. And right now we just don't have that. So I think that I genuinely think that the proper way to go is going to be full-throated and be loud, be proud, this sort of stuff. I think we're going to have to be out in the open in the not too distant future, and I think we're going to have to start prepping how we're going to be full-throated. I'm honestly not sure how. I'm not sure how to do that. I actually don't know, and that's a minor issue. So I think over the next couple of months, I think I'm going to make it my own task to try to figure out how one would start to talk about some of these topics openly without it being too much of an issue. Here in Los Angeles, that is a major problem. That is a major issue. So, as I say, I don't have a solution for that just yet. But, again, the concept is get ready. Get ready for it in the future. So, and also, let's see, actually, you know what? I do want to read about Purim. Well, yeah, I'll go ahead and interact with the chat, all three of us, for the moment. So here we are. Goose Whisperer says it's tough everywhere, but LA is world's worst. Yeah, that's basically the case. Keep cool and optimistic. Yeah, I'm optimistic on a longer timeline, but relative to my timeline, I am like within my lifetime. I'm not terribly optimistic with regards to my own lifespan. This is only because I think that what we're going to move into is going to be a generations-long issue. And if it's going to be a generations-long issue, then I don't know if you can hear Los Angeles. It's a helicopter going by. If you assume this is going to be a generations-long issue, then that just means that I might be alive for the opening salvo, and the actual hard work is going to be done if I, God willing, manage to have children. It'll be done in my grandchildren's lifetime, not mine. But I mean, who knows? I actually don't know. I genuinely don't know. But anyway, continuing, the demographic situation in your area can't be, it's really bad here. And it's a combination of the demographic situation and also the culture. The local culture here is highly repressive, highly repressive. They claim that they are laissez-faire, but they're only laissez-faire within a very narrow band, 90% of which is just sexuality. So apparently what counts as freedom is you can rub your genitals against just about anything, and that's their idea of freedom here. Anyhow, let's see here. Oh yeah, I totally agree. Must start making IRL spaces, having to normalize people like us being around. Yes, I think this is the case. This is one of the reasons why I think it would be a good idea to be loud and proud, is because there are a lot of people that are, I mean, my gosh, there was a Bernie supporter that I knew. I mean, I still kind of know him, but I just don't interact with him too much. Nice enough guy. And he was, it was the funniest thing because he said it totally unprompted, completely unprompted. He said that he was happy that Richard Spencer was defending white people. Now, holy cow, that's a Bernie bro who is speaking favorably about Richard Spencer. Now, of course, I think there are some other issues in there somewhere. There must have been some qualifier, but that's hardly the point. The idea that I'm going for here is that there will be inroads to other people that might think in very different ways than us, and it might be completely expected. So one of the reasons that I'm thinking now about what it would be like to speak openly is because there are going to be people that agree. And after, I mean, my gosh, the anti-white rhetoric is reaching a fever pitch in some circles right now. I mean, they're all but declaring white people evil and terrorists. At this point, all you have to do, and you know, this is in reference to last night, what was it? My personal definition for white nationalist is any white person that objects to being demographically replaced. I think that's a useful definition, and I think that that's going to be the order of the day for a very long time, for many years, possibly a decade plus. I don't know. And I think that once they start, once it becomes common knowledge, which is coming up real fast, once it becomes common knowledge, and once people start objecting, then the vilification begins. Once the open vilification, I mean real vilification, on Twitter it's one thing, on the news media that's another thing, but it becomes like tangible, palpable, once it becomes something that's discussed in open air. I have yet to experience that here in Los Angeles. Here in Los Angeles, all of the white people are dutifully staying silent. They do not talk about it at all. And and it's really weird too, because you will see children everywhere that are, I mean, obviously, of course, Mexicans primarily, a large number of Arab kids, huge number of Arab kids, black kids, clearly, you're going to see a lot of them, and stunningly few white kids. And I am curious to find out when white people actually start to talk about it. I think that they will. I think that they will have no choice in the not too distant future, just because the vilification on Twitter and Facebook and in the media is starting to creep up on white liberals, white woke Democrats. And once they start to actually get it, once they start to really get the claws in their flesh, and they have to start saying, please stop clawing me, once that happens, then I think that's when it'll become imperative that there be some kind of shield for them. That's when we're going to need to have safe spaces. So that's my thought pattern for the moment. Anyway, so where are we? Looks like, all right, it's and I'm also a little bit tired about right now. Sorry about that. And I think I was looking at the this is a little bit narcissistic on my part. Looking at the view count, it's down to like 2 or 3 or something. Gives me the impression that there are some other people that are streaming. If that's the case, goodness, what am I doing competing with other people? It's not wonderful at all. Anyhow, let me read 1 or 2. Oh, hey, Tom's here. Hey, buddy, what's going down? Let's see here. Sister-in-law worked for the Bernie campaign, and she and my brother own guns. Yeah, I would like to think that there's going to be people that are going to be like burnouts that come over to quote-unquote our side. I'd like to think that there are going to be some Trump supporters that will come over to our side. I think that would be amazing. I started out as a Trump supporter, so I just imagine that there's probably going to be like some red pilling that happens like de facto as the timeline moves forward. But I'm not sure. Anyway, the thing is that coming all the way back, living in a victim culture, we can't play the game that they are playing, because if we play their game, number one, that's not native to us, and number two, by playing the victim game, we are essentially saying we don't hold power, our attackers hold power. So we can never ever play the victim game. We're going to have to move into shows of strength, and I think that the first show of strength is going to have to be verbal. It's going to have to be talking about these things in public, and that's incredibly hard right now. That's really fucking hard, and I don't know how to do it. So I'm gonna run through a couple of ideas, because I'm thinking about either public speaking or perhaps local groups. I don't know what that would, I really don't know what it would look like. I actually don't know what it would look like. But there needs to be, actually, now that I think about it, there may be, no, that wouldn't work. I was going to say there may be some room to have discussions about this on radio waves, but here in Los Angeles, once you start doing that, it becomes a major issue, because you have to have a license to broadcast on a radio station. But just imagine there would be like, I don't know, KFRG, and if there was a station called KFRG that was broadcasting woke media or red-pilled media, that'd be pretty freaking cool. That'd be a great start. Unfortunately, like, you can't even wear a MAGA hat here in Los Angeles without drawing fire. Sadly, in some sections of town, I mean, fire is in gunfire. Let's see here. Yeah, and Spark is saying, yeah, we went through strength. Yeah, I concur. Completely concur. Because I have I have actually seen women around the Soyish fellows, and I've seen women around the men, actual men, and interestingly, not only do men or do women respond, men respond as well, which is really good news. So I think that having a display of strength will work on multiple levels with multiple people. Anyway, once we do actually have a display of strength, I think we're going to get recruits. I do. Because think about the great meme war of 2016. Those memes did not rely on victimhood. I think that the reason that the left can't meme is because all of their memes depend on victimhood, which is not funny. Victimhood is never ever funny. Now, if you are doing something that's ridiculous or maybe slightly destructive or willful or whatever, that can be funny. Those things can be very amusing. And that's what I responded to. I responded to the biting humor that was coming out of this is a little bit embarrassing, but whatever, R the Donald. And there were some, there were some alt-light types that were in R the Donald, obviously, and there were some crypto alt-right types in R the Donald who were attempting to red pill everyone in that sub. And I will freely admit that I realized that R the Donald was basically taking memes from 4chan, and I quickly ended up going over to 4chan And from there, everything just sort of snowballed. But the thing about those memes is that they were all about strength. They were all about power in one way or another. Even if it was just about ridiculing people that were being weak or silly or retarded or whatever. There is an implicit strength of mind, and that's the important part. I think that we need to be thinking in those terms basically at all times, pretty much at all times. And this is going a little bit into the whole Second Amendment thing, but I was listening to someone who said something. It was really funny. I don't know why I never thought of it in these terms, but basically, if everything always comes down to we are compromising with the left, well, okay, fine, but what are they giving us? If we're always ceding territory to them and they call it compromise, well, what the fuck are they giving us? What are they giving us? I think it's time basically to say no. Shall not be infringed simply means shall not be infringed. The end. The debate, as the old boomer meme, the debate was over in they would say 1776, but I think the Constitution was fully ratified in the 1780s or something like that? 1790s? I forgot. Anyway, the point is simply that, we should simply be saying, no, enough is enough. I'm just fucking over it. I don't care anymore. I'm done with all of this. And I think that's the appropriate response in general. A person that is going to be attacking you, you don't try to reason with them. You don't try to placate, compromise, or, whatever. You just say, I'm over it. Go fuck yourself. Do whatever you like, but stay away from me. I think that's the appropriate response. So, anyway, this is just a thought pattern for some reason that's been going over my mind, and I don't know why. I'm going to take, at the moment, a brief break because I'd like a glass of water. So while I have a little sip of water, I'm going to play a little bit of music to show tremendous strength and memory.
Sensitive haste. I almost cried 'cause I acted so insensitive. But I wanted you to know about the further soft warmth I could give. I respect your feelings. I respect your gender. I respect your existence. I'll always be tender 'cause I respect your feelings as a woman and a human. I'll be the pansy growing gardener of our bouquet of love, a flower-wielding soldier with the grace of a dove. I love your heart, mind, and soul. I never think of anything cheap. I'll read you some of my poems before you sleep. I respect your feelings. I respect your gender. I respect your existence. I'll always be tender 'cause I respect your feelings as a woman and a human.
I freaking love that track. It's so retarded. The funny thing about that track, though, is that it was written in 2008 or 9, I forget. The band is Anal Cunt, and they're not good, but they've got 3 or 4, what is it, Defenders of Hate? They have an album called Defenders of Hate. It's the dumbest thing ever. Anyway, that album, I can't remember the name of that album. It's something about like Picnic of Love or something. And they were calling out woke culture all the way back in like 2008 or 2009, which is really weird. Like, they were way ahead of the curve. So you can go ahead and make fun of them for being a shitty band all you want, which they are. If I recall correctly, their lead guitarist died from falling off of an escalator in a mall. So we're not talking about, high-grade human beings here, but at the same time, no, they freaking got it. They actually understood. So anyway, that's one of my... Well, 311 did suck, so that's an appropriate song title. It makes perfect sense. I understand it. I get it. Now they're speaking to me. Anyhow, so... So then, I guess I want to move over to Purim, because why not? That's kind of what I want to do. I'm going to make this stream go just a hair longer than normal, because I want to try to get through a little bit of the Purim book, because if I don't do that, like, I'll just feel bad. I'll just feel bad that I will have checked out this book for no freaking reason. So that's going to be the plan. So there we go. And of course, as per usual, I definitely recommend that everyone read the book of Esther, since it is... Oh, here, I'm going to open that link in another window. New tab. Where are we? Check. What is this? Okay, the number 2 diamond. All right. I really, really like the name of this band a lot. Sven Pie is really funny. The name alone is enough for me. Anyway. So yeah. Purim is one of the 2 most holy holidays in all of Gemism. So I do think that even if you don't believe in Old Testament or New Testament, even if you are not a Gem or a Christian, I do think it's important to understand the stories that they are telling themselves, because the stories they tell themselves are what they will act out in the world. This, by the way, is why I'm with Spark on the Show of Strength. It's because that's the narrative that I want to live. I don't want to live a victim narrative in which I am begging for validation, permission, or whatever from an authority figure that has contempt for me. I do not like that narrative. The narrative that I like is, stay the fuck away from me or I will hurt you. That's an easy narrative to understand, and I like it. And the narrative of Esther is diametrically opposed to that, inasmuch as Esther does what? She begs the king to rescind the edict to destroy all of the gems. So that puts Esther and Mordecai within the position of requesting. They are not active, they are fundamentally inactive, in my own opinion, which is why I do not like that narrative. I like active, not passive protagonists. Alright, so here we are. Alright. We were just speaking about Haman. Let's see, they fear strength, honor, beauty, and truth. Well, yeah, but that's because that's all of reality. And they, in my opinion, are anti-reality. So, which is weird. Okay, that's another discussion. I'm not going to worry about that. So we were talking about Haman, and how Haman is the subject of much ridicule and contempt. So here we are. We're going to continue now. Haman is identified with Memucan, I guess, i.e. prepared for punishment, and was the last of the 7 princes, quote, who saw the king's face, end quote. He is called an Agagite since he is a direct descendant in the 16th generation from Agag, the king of the Amalekites, whom Samuel slew with his own hands. Naturally, the rabbis tell many tales of Haman's rise to power and his machinations against Israel. Bacher, a great authority in the world of rabbinic studies, refers to a most interesting tradition. Among the legends of the Babylonian Talmud, which refer to the destruction of Jerusalem, we find one according to which Nero, in whose reign the war against the Romans began, was finally converted to Judaism. Wait a second. Nero was converted? Nero was a Jew? What? Alright, let's continue. Among his descendants was one of the greatest lights in Gemri, Rabbi Meir. Oh, so apparently some of the descendants of Nero. Now, Nero was batshit crazy. If I recall correctly, I'm gonna look into Wikipedia for just a moment, because Nero was a hell of a guy. One hell of a guy. Let's look at Nero. Wikipedia. Alright, born Lucius, I think is his name. Yeah, let's see here. Early period, pursuits, historiography, blah, blah, blah. Oh my gosh. Jewish tradition. At the end of 66 Anno Domini, conflict broke between Greeks and Gems in Jerusalem. According to the Talmud, Nero went to Jerusalem and shot arrows in all 4 directions. All the arrows landed in the city. He then asked a passing child to repeat the verse he had learned that day. The child responded, "I will lay my vengeance upon Edom by the hand of my people Israel." That's from Ezekiel 25:25. Nero became terrified, believing that God wanted the second temple to be destroyed, but that he would punish the one to carry it out. Nero said, quote, "He desires to lay waste his house and to lay the blame on me," end quote. Whereupon he fled and converted to Judaism to avoid such retribution. Vespasian was then dispatched to put down the rebellion. I'll be darned. Talmud adds that the sage Reb Meir Baal Hanes lived in the time of the Mishnah and was a prominent supporter of the Bar Kokhba rebellion against Roman rule. Rabbi Meir was considered one of the greatest Tamaim of the 3rd generation. That's 139 to 163 Anno Domini. According to the Talmud, his father was a descendant of Nero, who had converted to Judaism. His wife, Bruria, is one of the few women cited in the Gemara. He is the 3rd most frequently mentioned sage in the Mishnah. No-ish. Roman and Greek sources nowhere report Nero's alleged trip to Jerusalem or his alleged conversion to Judaism. There is no such record of Nero having any offspring who survived infancy. His only recorded child, Claudia Augusta, died aged 4 months. That's a hell of a thing. Tacitus describes extensively of Nero torturing and executing Christians. Well, that's interesting, though, that the Talmud should cite Nero as one of their own. That's actually really interesting. And yes, I would say that Nero would be closer to an Antichrist. Anyhow, that's just interesting. But yeah, Nero did some pretty messed up stuff. Anyone that doesn't know about Nero, he was not a good dude. And when I first heard that Milo Yiannopoulos had used @Nero as his Twitter handle, my first thought was, you cheeky guy. Because that's not I would not use that. I would not use @Nero for my own Twitter handle. Alright, moving on. Legend about Nero owes its origin to, according to Graetz, to the polemical tendency against a proselytizing Christianity, which took this emperor to be the Antichrist. But Bacher discountenances this view and holds that the legend takes its origin from, or rather in the tendency of tradition to show the triumphant nature of Judaism over its most savage enemies. The Haggadist loves to tell how the greatest enemies of Israel either converted themselves to Judaism or left descendants who accepted Judaism and became gem savants. Oh gosh, if I ever have kids, holy cow, I'm gonna make darn sure they have Jesus firmly implanted into their minds. Continuing, the precedent for these legendary conversions might well have been that of Naaman, the Syrian general who warred against Israel, but later converted to Judaism. It is Naaman who, in point of fact, leads the lists of proselytes or descendants of proselytes given in a Baraita of the Babylonian Talmud. Next comes Nebuzaradan. Okay. The general who led the Assyrian hosts against Jerusalem and destroyed it. Then Sisera. Then Sennacherib, and lastly Haman. According to an ancient reading not incorporated into the official text of the Babylonian Talmud, Haman had among his descendants a Babylonian Amora, who was apparently a most highly esteemed teacher of children, as the Talmud puts it succinctly. Quote, of the descendants of Haman, some taught children in Beni Barak. End quote. When Haman was poor, he sold himself as a slave to Mordecai. What? Okay. And became a barber in Kfar Karazim. But when he rose to fortune, he became an astrologer. That sounds like one hell of a claim. I heard no such thing in the book of Esther. Continuing, to find a favorable day for the massacre of the gems, like all good astrologers, he cast lots, or rolled dice. First, he tried the days of the week. When his lot fell on the first day, its presiding genius flew up to heaven and presented himself before the throne of God, quote, Lord of the universe, end quote. He cried out, quote, heaven and earth were created on my day. Remember, O Lord, thy covenant with thy people Israel, end quote. When Haman tested the auspices for the second day, its angel rose before God and supplicated before him, saying, quote, on my day were the waters above the earth separated from those below, and in the same manner hast thou separated Israel from among the nations. First let the waters be united, and then destroy thy people Israel. End quote. Okay, all right. Okay, let's continue. When the third day was chosen, its angel cried out, quote, Lord of the world, there were created on my day the plants wherewith Israel praise thee, the fruits which they tithe,
and offer before thee the grain which they leave over for the poor. To what end shall these survive if Israel is doomed to destruction? End quote. The fourth day likewise then rose up before the Lord and prayed, quote, Lord of the universe, today the sun and moon were created to mark the festivals and seasons of Israel. Today the stars were made, unto whom thy people are likened. If thy people perish, may thy luminaries be forever extinguished. End quote. Okay. All right. Continue. Okay. If thy people may perish, may the luminaries may be forever extinguished. That's such a weird. Okay, whatever. All right, moving on. Then the fifth day flew before God and cried, quote, Lord of universe, on my day the winged fowl, the birds of the air, the four-footed beasts, and all these were created for thy people to sacrifice. That's a hell of a thing to say. For sin offerings and for peace offerings do they sacrifice them before thee. If Israel be destroyed, who will make atonement before thee? End quote. Demands of sacrifice. That's a hell of a thing, demanding sacrifice. All right, continuing. Then rose up the sixth day before God's throne and said, quote, Lord of the universe, on this day was the first man created. His name hast thou bestowed upon thy people. Yea, my flock, the flock of my pastor, ye are men. If these thou wouldst destroy, then destroy all mankind and let Satan rule. End quote. When Haman chose the seventh day, the angel of the Sabbath rose before God and exclaimed, quote, Lord of the universe, on the seventh day were thy works completed. The Sabbath day hast thou declared to be an everlasting sign between thee and the children of Israel. Wouldst thou destroy thy people? Nay, not so. First destroy the Sabbath, the token of thy eternal covenant with them. End quote. Oh gosh. Oh, there's a heck of a lot going on in there. I'm a little bit too tired to think on it clearly, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little break. I'm going to have a little bit more water, and I'm going to play a track from my youth that I happen to like quite a lot. This is Soundtrack to Mary by Soul Coughing, circa 1996.
Easy places to get away to. Easy limbs languid all around you. All my time, yeah. Dirt on your hands, fingers drifting down my spine, yeah. Fall, 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 fall.
All right, that was good old Soul Coughing. God, what's his name? Mike Doughty? Yeah. Depeche Mode, big time H-Rock. I love H-Rock. It sucks, man. It sucks. I feel like such a hypocrite because basically, like, I don't think drug use is good, and yet the, like, half of my favorite music is literally guys that are just high as a kite, making weird freaking melodies and beats and tunes and chord progressions, and it's great and I love it, and I feel really bad that basically I'm clapping at people that are destroying their lives. It's like, well, oh, okay, oh, that's not too good, but there it is. All right, anyway, okay, we are now at minute 11:53. And I think, rather, we're at minute 53. We're at 11:53 time. And I think I'm going to do a little bit more reading. I think I can handle another page or two before I start to get sleepy enough to actually go to sleep. Yes, Tom Anderson, I may actually end up playing an album, but it'll have to be a short album because I got to go to bed. Definitely not playing 2 albums, an hour apiece. God, that was stupid. Okay, moving on. Alright, so apparently lots were cast, and here we go. Yeah, Velvet Underground, I'm very sure they were on the H. Alright, continuing with the book. Nor were the days only unpropitious. Each month, in turn, rose up before God and protested against its choice for the massacre of Israel. Nisan reminded God of the Passover. Iyar spoke of the manna and the second Passover. Sivan mentioned Pentecost. Tammuz quoted the siege of Jerusalem and the calamity already befallen on Israel. Ab said that it recorded a sufficiency of misfortunes. Like, you see, like this, there it is again, man. Victim, victim, victim. We have been sufficiently victimized. Okay. All right, moving on. Elul pleaded that in this month the wall of Jerusalem had been completed. Thus the months showed, one by one, the reason why they should not be chosen. It was only the 12th month, Adar, which had no special virtue of its own, and which was, in Haman's calculations, propitious. To make assurance double sure, Haman turned to the signs of the zodiac. One by one, they showed themselves only too favorable to Israel till he reached Pisces, when he cried out, quote, now shall I be able to swallow them as fish, which swallow one another, end quote. When he saw that the Pisces, fish, a fisher of men, fisherman, Jesus fed men fish, a fisher of men, fisher king. This is, there's an astrological issue going on here because, okay, we're entering the age of Aquarius. Pisces was the age of Christianity, the fish, and previous was the bull, or the ox or something, right? Here, hold on a second. I have to... This is actually an interesting thing because there's actually a suggestion here of a natural movement to Christianity, which is really, really funny. Zodiac. Zodiac Wikipedia. Pisces. Where's Pisces? Aquarius, Capricorn, no. Okay, so we are moving into Aquarius from Pisces, and it looks like we're going, okay, so working up from the opposite direction, it would go ram and then bull, so bull then ram. Ram would be what, sheep, I guess, right? the golden calf, there's something in there. There's actually something in there. Jesus being associated with fish, the fish are king. We are moving into Aquarius, the water bearer. So there may be something there. But I'm not sure. So anyway, that's just kind of interesting, though. That is actually kind of interesting. Okay. Let's see here. Tom is requesting albums now. Oh gosh, you cool off, buddy. Well, how about this? I only want to do ones that are like on my hard drive. So like I don't want to stream an album unless like from YouTube. So that's a bit of a thing. Anyway, put it in the chat though, Tom, just in case. Maybe it's an idea. Maybe it's something. Maybe I'll have the album on my hard drive. Anyway, when he saw that the indications of Pisces coincided with Adar, his rejoicing was doubled, and the fateful day was finally chosen. See, actually, that's kind of funny because, yeah, exactly, goose, ram, goat, Satan, gems, gemming. Yes, well, think about Pan, the god, the Greek god Pan. Pan was the god of sexuality. So there's a link in there somewhere. Alright, so anyway. Though Haman had a host of counselors, one for each day in the year, not one of them was as good as his wife Zeresh. It was she who counseled him to build the gallows for Mordecai as the only means of ensuring his death. Quote, if Mordecai is a Jew, end quote. She told her husband, quote, you must indeed go warily with him. You must work against him in a fashion never before adopted against his people, thus to bring about his death. If you have him cast into a furnace, he may come unscathed, as did Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. If you cast him in a lion's den, he may be unhurt, as with Daniel. Throw him into a prison, and, like Joseph, he may come out to rule. But if you boil him in a brass cauldron, he may, like Manasseh, save himself by earnest prayer. Again, if you send him forth to the desert, you must remember that it was in a desert that his forefathers increased and multiplied. If you put out his eyes, remember that Samson, though blind, brought calamity and death upon the Philistines. Hang him on the gallows. It is the only way to kill him. No gem so doomed to death has ever escaped. End quote. Goodness, that's a lot of bloodlust right there, isn't it? Alright, continuing. While Zeresh was giving this counsel to Haman, God had assembled before him all the trees of the forest and asked them, saying, quote, which of you will give his wood to Haman, that he may erect a gallows on which, in the end, he himself will hang? End quote. First the fig tree answered and said, quote, the Israelites bring the best of my produce as first fruits to the temple. Hosea compares herself to the first fruit of the fig tree. Shall I then thus lower myself? End quote. Then the vine raised up its voice and replied, quote, in the Psalms hast thou said, I have taken unto myself a vine out of Egypt. Shall I now degrade myself to be so used? End quote. The almond spoke, saying, where are we? Quote, of me Solomon said, I went down to the field of almond trees. Surely my wood would not be desecrated by Haman. End quote. The citron said, quote, at the feast of booths, my fruit is plucked by the children of Israel, that they may observe the ceremonies enjoined upon them. Shall I give my wood? End quote. Then the myrtle made defense, saying, quote, Zechariah likens me to Israel when he says, he stood amid the myrtles. Never will my wood be made into a gallows for Haman. End quote. Then the olive tree said, quote, Israel is likened unto me also. The Lord hath called thy name a flourishing olive tree, beautified by its goodly fruit. How can I give my wood to be built into gallows for Haman? And then the apple tree refused to serve for Haman's gallows because of the verse in the Song of Songs. Quote, like the apple tree among the trees of the forest, so is my beloved among the youths. End quote. The date palm and acacia, the hemlock, the cedar, the palm, the weeping willow, and all the trees of the forest refused to grant their wood to Haman because of their intimate connection with Israel. Then, after a long silence, the thorn bush raised its voice and offered its wood. Quote, Lord of the universe, barren am I, nor do I produce fruit. My wood shall I give for this wicked Haman, to build a gallows for himself. As I am the thorn, so likewise is Haman a thorn, that would scratch and tear thy harmless people. Since the fruit becomes the tree, let the thorn hang on the thorn. End quote. It's actually kind of an impressive little speech there. I'm just going to go ahead and say that's, points, man. Kudos. Kudos for points. Kudos for cleverness. Points for being clever. I like it. All right, moving on. And thus it came to pass that the wood for the gallows was taken from the thorn tree. Haman, in ignorance of the celestial conclave, went into the king's garden, and having chosen therefrom a fine thorn bush, set it up before his door with great rejoicing and singing. In his mind he said, quote, tomorrow morning, at the hour of the reading of the Shema, I shall hang Mordecai. End quote. Then he measured himself by the tree to see if it was fully large enough, and as he was doing this, at bat call, or heavenly voice, proclaimed to him, quote, for thee indeed is this gallows suited, for thee is it set up, for thee has it been prepared and destined from the 6 days of creation. End quote. Nothing daunted, Haman went on to the next morning to the Bet Ha-Midrash, parenthetical, house of study, and parenthetical, where he found Mordecai surrounded by his 22,000 pupils, clothed in sackcloth, and with dust and ashes on their heads. That sounds like a ridiculous image. Again, this is the difference between victimhood and power and strength. That sounds like victimhood, and I don't care for it in the least, so... to me, that just sounds like 22,000 SJWs screaming and screeching about God knows what and shrieking, are you kidding me? Moving on. Haman placed chains upon their necks and set guards over them, saying, quote, first shall I slay you, then shall I hang Mordecai. End quote. All burst forth into a loud cry of lamentation, the sound of which rose up to heaven. It was a cry of the pupils which God heard, and which resulted in the sudden change in Haman's fate. Yeah, I gotta say, I don't like that narrative. I really don't like that narrative. I do not like it. As far as I'm concerned, showing up and pointing at yourself and saying I'm a victim is not good. And basically, because it was 22,000 pupils, like 22,000 people versus one guy, they could literally just walk up to the guy and like 22,000 people, they could just lie down on top of the guy and crush him to death, and then he would die. I mean, we're talking about people that are incapable of displays of power, so that's why I use the crushing thought pattern. But I mean, if they had a little bit more, gumption, maybe they could kick him to death. I don't know anything. It doesn't really matter. But the 22,000 to 1, they could do whatever they want to the guy, and he would be helpless. So no, this is a very silly and ridiculous narrative, and I don't like it. Let me check and see what's going on here. This is Rain Temple. I think I do have that. I actually do think that I've got that album. It's now the 108 minute. 108 is a very lucky number in the Chinese in the Chinese tradition. So I think this is as good a time as any to go ahead and say I'm going to call stream now and get myself ready for REM sleep, because I am freaking exhausted. I got awful sleep last night. So I think Rain Temple, I'm going to go to RQRSR. Ray. No. 2018. No, I don't think it's here. Maybe I have to like go and look now. I have to go and look for it. It's terrible. Rain Temple QRS. I might not have it. That's not wonderful. We'll check here. I have to like go through everything that I've got. I have to go through everything that I have in order to find this freaking album. I might have it though. No, I don't have it. I've only got the regular 2014 Birth of a New Day. It's the only one that I've got. Shit. And it looks like a great album too. Let's see here. I guess I would have to pipe in the audio, so I could do, as long as I don't have any other desktop sounds coming through, it's fine. So yeah, I think I can do that. I don't think that I'm going to be oh yeah, that's right, Goose Whisperer, my bad. You're actually correct. I'm completely wrong about that. My bad. Anyhow, this shows you how tired I am. I'm not able to do simple thoughts on time. That's awful. Anyhow, hey Marge, how's it going, buddy? Yes, and this album is a recommendation by Tom Anderson. I think it was Tom Anderson that first got me into, what is it, 2814, I think? Yeah, I think it was Tom Anderson that first got me to 2814, but I'm not 100% on that, so I actually don't know. But I'm going to give Tom Anderson credit on this one, because why not? He recommended it, so this is what I'm going to play. It's going to be Rain Temple by 2814. This is a 1 hour and 5 minute long album, so this is not short. This is not a little walk in the park, but it's going to be, rather in terms of length, I mean. But I assume it's going to be just fantastic, so I'm really looking forward to it. Anyhow, I'm going to call stream because I'm really freaking tired, so that's the plan. Signals and codes, you didn't miss much, really. The first part, mostly, I was trying to get a thought out of my head, which simply amounted to, I don't like victim narratives. I hate victim narratives. A victim narrative basically means that you are in the constant position of supplication. You are always begging for permission, and that's not good. That assumes that the person from whom you are begging permission is the one with the power, which puts you in the subjugation position. It's not good. You're in a one-down position when you're playing victim, and I don't like that. I much prefer a position of power. I much prefer that one simply displays some level of strength, and that will be the basis for defense. So you must defend yourself, basically. And this springs from the idea that no one's coming to save us. No one's going to come to rescue us. We're going to have to do it on our own. The U.S. federal government is basically ethnically cleansing us in our own country, and they're demanding that we pay for it. So they're not going to save us. We can't vote our way out of this one. We're going to have to find some way to deal with this situation without saying, please save me, or please stop. We're going to have to find some way to assert ourselves. And this has, right time, right place. You can't just go out all willy-nilly and just say, oh, I'm going to do it, and then you do something retarded, And again, no Fed posting. I don't endorse or condone any actions or activities. This is all about just thought patterns and analysis, just general information processing. That's it. But yeah, I think that the appropriate thing is that at some point we'll simply have to declare a safe space. And I don't think that there's any way out of that. And the only way that you can do that is not to ask for permission. It's simply to do it. And if anyone says anything to the contrary, cease or desist, or there will be consequences, the only thing that you will be able to do at that point is simply acknowledge this person has defined themselves as an enemy and must be repelled as a threat. Again, no Fed posting. I'm only thinking about this from a pure abstract point of view. So think about schoolyard bullies or something. Anyway, freaking wiped out. So I'm gonna go ahead and call stream. I'm going to take down all of the temptations here for things that I could possibly watch or listen to, because that's no good. I really there's one thing that I totally do want to watch, and I'm not going to do it. I'm going to be responsible. I'm not going to do it. So anyhow, this is it. All right, guys, I'm going to let out. Thank you everybody for popping in, and I've got the wait, do I have the rainy version? No, I think I've got the I don't think I have the full version, the full album of New Day. I think that I've got the one that's like 105 minutes. No, it's not. What is it? Let me check. I want to check. I'm curious now. Now I have to find out. Son of a gun! How dare you? How dare you make me look for things? Where are we? There we are. I have the 58-minute version of A New Day. And I think the one that you always talk about is the one that's like 1 hour and 20 minutes? Or is it like 1 hour and 15 minutes? Something like that. Anyway, I have the truncated version. So I'm probably just going to go with the Rain Temple album. Anyhow, I'm going to get off the stream. I'm going to play the album. I'm going to get ready for bed, and that's going to be the plan. So anyway, guys, thank you everyone for popping by. And actually, I'm going to also cancel. I have to get it all completely ready. Oh wait, no, I'm going to use just this image. Yeah, I will simply take it off of no desktop. Okay, yeah, now it's fine. There we are. Okay. Closing out stream. Rule number 1. Always treat every firearm like it is loaded. Rule number 2. Never cover or sweep anything that you are not willing to destroy. Rule number 3. Your finger stays off of the trigger until your sights are on target. That means out of the trigger guard. Not merely off the trigger, but out of the trigger guard. Rule number 4. Be aware of your target and what's beyond it. Safety first. And of course, my own pet 5th rule, which is secure that shit, Hudson. If you have a pistol that is not in a holster, it better be in the process of being cleaned or being used to plink. If your pistol is not being cleaned, or if it's not being used to plink, it should be in a holster. The last exception would be to make it range safe, would be to drop the magazine, rack the slide, get that round out of there, lock the slide back, and examine the chamber to make sure that there is no round chambered. And with that slide still locked back with no magazine inside, then you can set the gun down, but with the ejection port facing up. That way everyone can visually see that it is not loaded. That is the only exception that I can think of for having a firearm, a pistol, out of a holster. So if it's not being used, holster it. There's no sense in having an unholstered pistol. So anyway, all right. I'm tired. I'm going to go to bed. I'm going to brush and floss, which I recommend that everyone do. And this is a great album. I assume that it's going to be a great album. Tom assures me, and I believe him, that we're going to have a great album for brushing and flossing. So here we are. I am going to I'm going to mute myself now, and let's see here. We're going to go to the main. Yeah, I'm going to mute myself, and then I'm just going to go ahead and pull up desktop audio, and that's going to be it. Alright guys, thank you everyone for popping by, and I'll see you all in the chats. Cheers. And that's going to be it. Alright guys, thank you everyone for popping by, and I'll see you all in the chats. Cheers. And that's going to be it. Alright guys, thank you everyone for popping by, and I'll see you all in the chats. Cheers.